Hello YouTube, this is Sebwan here, and this is the first video of a several-part video series that is going to be entirely dedicated to Amplitude Studios' new video game, Endless Legend. Now, many of you may be asking, what is Endless Legend? I haven't heard of it. And the answer to that question probably lies in the fact that it's still in very early alpha. But Endless Legend by itself is a 4X strategy game. 4X, if you're not familiar, is, I think, expand, explore, exterminate, and exploit. It's a type of strategy game, it's a type of strategy genre, I should say, that is very, very present in Civ 5 and games like Endless Space, where you basically, it's a turn-based strategy game, and you have to build your cities and build your army, research tech, and do all sorts of stuff. I personally am a huge fan of the 4X strategy game series, and I know many people out there are too, and I'd have to say that Endless Legend, a 4X strategy game, would be an amazing addition to them. So first off, I really do enjoy this game, and it is really fun all around, and still for being early alpha, it is still very polished and not very buggy whatsoever. This series is going to be mainly aimed for those who don't really know how to play and aren't really familiar with the 4X game genre, but it's also going to be kind of a tutorial and gameplay combined, so think of it as a let's play with a tutorial built into it. So first off, I'd like to go through the quick user interface, which, by the way, I think is absolutely amazing, not glitchy whatsoever, and ultimately very nice. Anyway, so the user interface, as you can see, some of these options like introduction, join game, mods are blocked off because right now, being early alpha, these features aren't quite available. But you have the ones that are available, like new game, load game, options, and then games together, which are available. I'm going to go through each of them real quick. New game is quite self-explanatory. It starts a new game of Endless Legend. Load game loads a previously saved game, also pretty self-explanatory. Options just opens an option menu with audio, video, advanced video, UI, and notifications, all very self-explanatory. Just a quick note on the options. You have an extremely wide variety of options when it comes to how you can customize your game. So if you're kind of wondering whether or not, since it's early alpha, you can do much with it, the answer to that is most certainly yes. When it comes to how demanding this game, on another side note, how demanding this game is on your graphics card and CPU, from what I've encountered, it really isn't that demanding whatsoever. I mean, personally, I do have a fairly nice graphics card, a NVIDIA GTX 660. It's quite a nice graphics card, but I can play on all these maximum settings with very high resolution, and I also have a few other friends who play it with, I think, just integrated Intel graphics, and they can still play it on max. So, really nice graphics, but not demanding whatsoever. The last option on the main menu is the Games Together little button. That just brings you to Amplitude Studios, if I didn't mention, the makers of this wonderful game, website and forum website, and all around, that's a very nice website, so if you want to get information on the game and, talk to the community and developers, I'd suggest going there. So yeah, let's open up a new game. So I'm just going to start a new game for the sake of explaining how the new game section works and how you create a game and how the different AIs function and such. So this is the new game submenu. In it you see 5 different main boxes. You see game settings summary, empire summary, world map summary, scenario summary, competitors, and session information. Well, I guess that makes 6. But basically each of them are again fairly self-explanatory except for a few. Game settings summary basically says how many people are competing, or empires in this case, how many empires are going to be competing in this game, and then timed battles, which is basically a tiny little factor that affects how long battles can be in the game. I'll explain that all later. But basically, from here, you can change how many other AI or players are going to be playing in this game. So again, that's pretty self-explanatory. You have advanced options down here, which again is blocked off, seeing as though this is early alpha. Down below that, you have world map summary. Again, that's fairly self-explanatory. You have region size, temperature, world shape, and world size. Once you get into the game, each of these are going to be a little more apparent, but for now, all you need to know is that region size is basically the size of the different little subsections of the map, and temperature, it just affects how the game looks. World shape just, again, affects what it looks like, or what the overall world looks like. World size affects how big it's going to be, and because there's not that many, because you only can have 6 AI right now, I'd for sure recommend putting it on small if you want to counter AI, and large if you don't want to counter any AI. And then under advanced settings, you have some more cool little settings. Topography basically gives you, again, self-explanatory options: flattened, average, hilly, mountainous. All of these basically just affect what the world map looks like. On the other options, you have the seed, which allows you to not do anything with it, just keeps it at random. The world wrap allows it to, if you keep scrolling on one side of the map, let's say I keep scrolling to the right, eventually I'm going to end up in the same spot I started scrolling from. Just a cool little feature. And then geometry, default, hexagonal, and chaotic basically just makes the game look kind of different. The basic geometric shapes evolved in the world generation just makes it look a little more different. I personally like playing on chaotic because it makes the game overall look a little more realistic, and I like that. Okay, so yeah, that's the world map summary, game system summary, and then here, empire summary. I'm going to talk about empires in a quick second here, but all you need to know about this area is that it basically tells you what is specific to your empire. And then scenario summary, you can't really do anything in it whatsoever because right now it's an early alpha and there's only one scenario, which is the default scenario, the base scenario, which lets you discover Endless Legend and all of its options. So basically there's nothing you can really do with it now, seeing as though this is alpha. Okay, so now that we've covered the basic world, empire, and settings section, we're going to look at the different empires and how many empires there are and all that fun stuff. So in Endless Legend, like many other 4X or any strategy game, for example, you have different empires or different factions or different people you can play as, okay? In the case of Endless Legend, as I mentioned, you have empires, as you see right here. The main empires you have, or right now the only empires that are implemented in the alpha, are the Wild Walkers, Broken Lords, Vultures, and Necrophages. Personally, I like playing as the Wild Walkers because those are the friendliest to new players and ultimately are just fairly easy to get into. The Broken Lords, Vultures, and Necrophages, I don't really play that much personally because I'm not a huge fan of them, but I know many, many people who are, so just because I don't play as them much, don't think that you can't play as them. They're all very cool factions, and the differences between them really lie in their different their different bonuses that you get at the start. So for example, the Wild Walkers, you can look at all their bonuses here in this little empire summary section. Just put your mouse over here or put your mouse over the little thumbnail of the little text, and it's just going to be a little description. So like if I put it over living towns, it's going to tell me Wild Walkers craft was to grow rocks and trees into great buildings, creating and living towns of green towers within the green forest, okay? That tells me the effect, +1 production on each terrain with forest, okay? Very self-explanatory, and you can just explore this on your own time, because if I were to explore all the different things, all the unique traits the empires have, this video would be over an hour long. Just a quick, brief distinction between the two, though. Wild Walkers are really good with forests. If it's a forest map, I would definitely suggest, or if you know it's going to be a forest map for some reason, I would suggest playing as the Wild Walkers. Also, if you're a new player, play as the Wild Walkers because ultimately they're the easiest to get into. The Broken Lords are kind of weird, I think, but ultimately they're really cool. They're quite hard to play as, but instead of they don't actually use food. They use the currency in this game called dust. So if you want to do anything with them, you're going to have to use money instead of food. So it's kind of weird in that sense, but it opens up thousands of more different strategies you can do. Excuse me. Vultures, on the other hand, are not as different or not as strange as the Broken Lords are, but they have their own unique traits like a holy resource. It kind of just it provides you the ability to find a strategic resource that's holy and gives you a boost and such, and teleportation between cities. It's a lot of cool little things that the Vultures have. Ultimately, it's kind of cool. Necrophages, on the other hand, are kind of, I think they're based off of like zombie-ish or ghost-esque kind of things. You don't get food in the same way the Vultures and the Wild Walkers do. You get it, I think, by, again, I don't really play as much, so I can't really say for certain. It's harder to get food for them, but they get food via other ways than just the normal food tiles. Now, if everything I just said is really confusing to you because you have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to like food and such, don't worry, I'll explain that all in this video and the videos to come. So, now that I have I'm going to be the Wild Walkers because I think that's the best to demonstrate the core game mechanics. I'm going to play as them with this game, and just same color, same everything, and seeing as all my settings are good, at 6 empires, no time battles, I should switch this to chaotic, oh, it's already there, all the options I want, and I'm going to change that to terrain, okay? Ultimately, everything, or I'm sorry, Terran, ultimately everything's as I want it to be, so I'm just going to start up the game, and it's going to load, so I'm just going to skip through this real quick in the video, so you don't have to bear through the somewhat long world generation period. Okay, so now I have loaded into the game, and this is what it looks like. Now, personally, I think the game, just on a first glance, looks absolutely stunning. But for people who have never played games like Endless Legend or Civilization 5, the game interface may look quite strange. But I'm going to do, in this video, for the remainder of this video, I'm going to do a basic rundown of the interface in what each button does and all the different things that you can do with them. I'm just going to keep this very brief, and I'm going to go into each of the different buttons later in the later in subsequent videos in which they become more present. But for now, I'm just going to do a quick rundown. So I'm going to start with this little guy you see right here, and this little blue icon that hovers over him. That basically just lets you select the unit. If I click on it, then I press escape, that deselects it, click on it, press escape. It's basically how it works. So, inside of here you see a bunch of different things. You don't need to worry about them all right now, but I'm just going to tell you a quick little tidbit about each of them. This right here is your hero. Heroes basically are units that give, or they're characters that give this little unit right here a specific bonus, or just ultimately improves them when it comes to their stats. This hero right here is a ranged hero, so in a battle, if I were to have a battle with this unit right here, this would be very good because I have a range unit. This also, if you look at the stats, some pretty high stats right there, it ultimately just boosts up this unit in battle. And then over here, the different actions this unit can perform. Because I have a settler in this, unit right here, I can settle a city. So if I click that button, I can point my mouse anywhere and I'll settle a city. Explore and idle are not implemented because this is early alpha. Down here I have that's the attack button, which allows you to attack an enemy army, and then this is a siege. This one's a siege button, so if you're near an enemy city, you can besiege it. Again, those will become more apparent when they actually are present in future gameplay videos. Over here, you have the units that are inside this main unit. So, to kind of clarify some, naming terms, because they're both called units, I'll just refer to this guy as like a group of units, okay? So this group of units is called the First Red Bear Warriors, because that's just what the game wants to call them. And inside the First Red Bear Warriors, you have a settler, a Dakari Ranger, or I'm sorry, you have 2 Dakari Rangers and a settler. Dakari Rangers are just basic ranged attack units, and that's all there really is to them. They can attack opposing armies, explore, and do all sorts of stuff, but basically, they just attack and explore. That's all they can do. However, Settler can also explore around, they can move around the map. All these guys can, basically all units can move around the map, but some are better for some things, and others are better for different things. But for the Dakari Rangers, exploring and fighting is what they're good at. Settlers, basically, all they're used for is to settle a city. Because the core foundation for every 4X strategy game, and for games like Endless Legend, is you build your cities, okay? And their settlers are how you do that. They're the units that let you build a city. So these are the units inside the First Red Bear Warriors, and basically, every time you want to create a new army, or an army, for example, would be the First Red Bear Warriors. Every time you want to create a new army, you put these units inside of that army. I'll go again, if this is confusing, I'll go into it later. That's basically how you create an army. Units, the more units you have, the stronger your army is going to be, and the more diverse it's going to be in a battle. Yeah, up here there's just the basic stats, your health, your movement, and how far it can see, and then whether or not you want to disband this army, and how many units are inside this army, okay? So that's basically all this character user interface does. Up here, this is the Empire screen, which I'll go into this for sure in the next video. This basically just gives you your basic information about your faction and your empire that you're currently controlling. City list screen basically just lists the cities that you have created. Since I haven't created any cities yet, you're not going to see anything here, but later on you're going to see several cities. This just basically gives you stats about your cities too. Excuse me. This is your research scene. Your research screen. Basically, research is a huge part in this kind of strategy game, whereas you need to research different topics in order to advance your technology and to advance the kinds of things that you can build. Again, I'll go into this in a later video. This is your quest screen. Quests are something that are kind of specific to Endless Legend in the fact that you get a quest whenever an event occurs, or you go to a certain area, or some sort of something happens, and then you get a quest, and if you fulfill a quest, you get a reward. Again, that's all very simple, but it will be covered later on. Right here is your military screen, which basically gives you a rundown of all your military units and your armies. So as you can see, I have my first Red Bear Warriors, which I was showing you just a minute ago in the screen right here. That's them. They can also be seen in the military screen. This shows you, again, the basic stats and their current upkeep. Unit designs is another thing. As I was telling you before, I had a settler in Dakari Rangers, and because I haven't researched anything, and because I haven't settled on any cities, these are the only two units I have. So really, right now, I can't really do much because I only have a simple attack unit and a simple settling unit, so there's not much I can do. Inside of this little unit designs, you can customize them to whatever you want. You can customize them to give them different kinds of armor. A very, very cool system, but right now, because I'm getting kind of high up on the time of this video, I'm not going to explain that in this video, rather in the subsequent videos in which this part becomes more important. This basically gives you a rundown of the units that you have and the armies that you have. And then the diplomacy screen basically allows you to interact with the other players in the game, in this case, the AI. Because I haven't encountered any, and I probably won't encounter them for a while, this isn't going to be really apparent for a quite long time in the videos. So really, it's not that important right now, but later on, it's going to be crucial to maintaining diplomacy with other empires, and if you want to declare war, you can do that there. If you want to make peace, if you want to make trade, all that stuff can be done at the diplomacy screen. And then here you just have the options, save game, load game, self-explanatory, and the options up here gives you you can customize your audio, video, advanced UI, notifications, all that fun stuff that I explained earlier. So yeah, that basically is the basic rundown of the user interface. Also, if you want to zoom out and zooming in, that's just mouse wheel scroll. So you scroll your mouse in to zoom in, and you scroll your mouse out to, zoom out. Quite simple. If you want to navigate around the scene, I just use the WSAD keys. So W for up, S for down, A for left, D for right. All again very simple. Yeah, and down here, one last little widget I have to cover before ending this video. You have, I don't really know what to call this, but I just call it the turn ender. If you click this little button right here, it ends your turn. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but games like this are turn-based games. So what that means is that you do an action in your turn, you move a guy around, you have a battle, all that fun stuff. But once your units can't move anymore and you can't do anything else, and you basically end your turn to advance the game. So next turn you can do more stuff, and then cities progress, research progress, all that fun stuff. Time is basically entirely done in turns in this kind of game. So that's how you end your turn. This just toggles on whether or not you see the hexes. This toggles on the kind of resources that are there. I'll explain that next video. These just show the other people playing, like AI1, AI2, AI3, and 7-1B right here. This basically just selects the idle army. So if you have an army that isn't doing anything, you just click this little refresh little arrow button to select that army so you can do something with it. I always recommend when you're playing looking here to see how many idle armies you have, because you never want to leave a unit to not do anything. You always want to make sure it's doing something. So this button is very handy. Up here, right here, this shows you how long until winter is coming. Now, you may have no idea what I mean by that, and basically, what happens in Endless Legend is after a while, the season changes to winter, food is a lot harder to get, your empire kind of slows down, units don't move as fast, ultimately it just slows everything down, makes it harder to function. Winter is a concept I'll talk about in a later video, but basically that's all you need to know right now, is that it will come, and this little counter right here shows you when it will come. Okay, so that's a very, very basic rundown of the user interface. Now, if you're still kind of confused on what's happening, that is completely normal, because strategy games take a good few videos to be able to fully understand, and I intend to make those few videos so you can fully understand Endless Legend and see what an awesome game it is by watching gameplay, by watching these tutorials. Each of the things I went into, or each of these little options, they're much more complicated than what I have stated them to be. I will make sure to talk about all of them in subsequent videos, and especially when they become actually practical in gameplay. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, subscribe. If for some reason you had an issue with the way I was doing something, just please feel free to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.